all of your hospitality and this table of youngsters over here who have just been taking me around and taking care of me. So thank you guys. Can we get the projector going? And I might need, is there a little light up here? So I was going to try and speak off the cuff, but if I did that, I would probably either tell you the complete wrong things, or I would talk for like 6 hours up here about nothing to do with children's books. So I put together a little story. Let's see, where's our... I've always loved telling stories, and my earliest memory in creating tales was found in a giant box of plastic animals I had as a child. I would lay them out on the floor and make elaborate tales of jungle adventures to any friend who would listen. Each animal had a name, a story, companions, enemies, and wild adventures in the far corners of my house. I had mostly four-legged creatures, and certainly no Barbie dolls, but I did have one figurine who was a Planet of the Apes doll, and she had a beard and army fatigue. I don't know why I liked her so much, but anyway, she was my favorite because her articulated limbs could ride my plastic horses, and her ankles could bend to sit correctly in the stirrups of my miniature saddles. I could make her fall off her mount and bend her wrist backwards to look broken. I fashioned splints and casts from toilet paper and wrapped the horse's legs in strips of fabric to mimic the real horses I saw on the racetrack. I liked in the tales of my bearded doll, when she was lost or in deep trouble, my listening friends would beg to know what might happen next. And that became my goal in telling stories, to entice my listener to want more. And once I started writing stories, I became obsessed with turning my daily happenings into stories. So let me start at the beginning, the place where ideas come from. I love the word underbelly. I think first of literally an underbelly, the soft pink part of my dog's stomach when she's on her back at her most vulnerable. Or even of a fierce animal, like an alligator, who is tender on his underbelly no matter how big his teeth or claws. But the official definition of underbelly is a vulnerable or unprotected part, aspect, or region. It defines what I think is the most important part of a story, that place that is tender and vulnerable, that place inside each of us that holds the deepest secrets, that place which makes us want to keep turning the page. So what, you ask, does underbelly have to do with writing children's books? I want to create stories that beg the reader to turn each page, wondering what happens next. When I can touch the reader's emotion in some way, I have them. And finding that vulnerable spot, either in them or letting them see it in me, is the beginning. So where do those first ideas come from? And how much does my personal life affect and inspire my direction? How do I step out of my comfort zone and write about the things that scare me? Because probably what scares me scares you. Like most artists, every moment in my life influences my work. Everything I do inspires me or scares me into creating. When I face what I'm afraid of, I follow a path that is unknown and challenging, and I hope to get to the underbelly and expose its soft side. It was several years ago that I received a call from my mother that she was not feeling well. I knew it was worse than her usual worries, something that would change our lives forever. I took a nap after her call, and when I woke, I wrote down my dream. These are little tiny, tiny sketches. I'll show you an example later. They're about this tall, they're small. I dreamed about a baby elephant who was separated from its mother. In this first dream, he is taken by poachers and tries for years to escape. Really great children's book, right? When he's finally big enough to get away, He goes back to find his mother in their meeting place, which was the moon, and it is only her soul that is there to comfort the young elephant. I called the story Meet Me at the Moon and learned later that week my mother had terminal cancer. After she passed and over many revisions, it evolved into a story of the connection between a parent and a child. Not a story about death. So I'd like to show you how this one evolved, and we have a guest reader this evening. Miss Barbara Ornstein is going to come and read the book. Before she begins, I just want to let you know that last night I was at dinner with some of the students, and they said that she was the most amazing reader of books. And so I asked her if she would read this. So if you want to read from here, and I'll just, you want to do that, or do you want to? Okay, so
This is the word I should have asked.
Baobab.
Okay. Beneath the shade of the baobab tree, little one sang the calling song, and Mama came with a loving nuzzle. The land is dry, little one, Mama said. I must climb the highest mountain to ask the skies for rain. But Mama, said little one, I don't want you to go. I know, little one, but you will feel my love in everything around you. What if I can't hear you, Mama? Listen for my sound in the wind, little one. I will sing to you. How will I know that you still love me? Asked the little one. I love you like the sun loves the earth, said Mama. When you feel the warmth of the sun, I will be loving you from where I am. But Mama, I won't be able to see you. Find the brightest star, little one. If we both look at the same star, it will be as if we are seeing each other. Mama, said little one, how will you find me again? When the night sky is bright, little one, meet me at the moon where the sky touches the earth. I love you, little one, said Mama. And then Mama left to climb the highest mountain to ask the skies for rain. Each night, little one found the brightest star, knowing Mama was looking at the same star in her sky. Each day, little one listened to the wind and heard Mama's song. And as the sun warmed the earth, little one felt love. Days passed, and then a week, and the dry earth crumbled in the heat, and still Mama did not return. Dark clouds finally rolled across the sky and cracked the open with rain, but now there was no song on the wind, no bright star to see, no sun to make little one feel warm and loved. After a long while, the clouds parted. Little one saw the moon high in the sky. Mama, you told me you'd meet me at the moon, little one said, but how can I reach it? Then little one remembered to sing the calling song and sang deep into the night. Slowly, the moon dropped and moved half across the plains. Little one saw something move in the light. Mama, cried little one. When the moon touched the earth, Mama answered with the calling song. You are in my most secret heart, little one, she sang. And you are in mine, little one answered. I love you. Thank
you. It's really great for me, too, to hear it be read by somebody who's such a wonderful reader. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to tell a little side story on this, so if you're not teary-eyed yet.
Yeah.
When I was working on this book, my editor asked me, there was no calling song at first, it was just sort of a spoken, it was just something that I had in there that's how they communicated, but I never said what it was. And my editor said, well, what is the calling song? Can you just think about what the words should be? And I don't have children, and I love them, but I've never wanted kids, and so I couldn't really relate to how I would call my children. And I was thinking of these things that were, I don't know, they just seemed really sappy and horrible, and I would write down all these ideas, and I didn't even send them to my editor because I just thought these are horrific. And I thought, well, there is no calling song. Can't we just leave it without a calling song? And she said, no, just really want you to think about it. So I went back to my notebook and I was scribbling and frustrated. I was sitting at my computer and I saw on the bottom of my computer at home, I have a little tiny Post-it. And it says, you're in my most secret heart. And it was a note that my mother left when she knew that she was going to die, that I would find it in the house. And she did this with several notes in different places. And it was just really weird in that moment to see it there. And I just wrote that one thing to my editor, and she said, oh my God, that's the perfect answer to the calling song. So Anyway, it's in the book, and I thought that was a really neat way of integrating real life into sharing it with others. So while the mother comes back to her little one at the end of the story, I've also received dozens and dozens of emails from people thanking me for writing a story that somehow connected them to a past person, and especially a mother or sister. And even though there's nothing about death in the story, and it's all about connection, it was really great to hear that because they were really having a sense of what the story was truly about without me having to say anything. And my mother, she was a reader of all literature, and one of her favorites, especially in her later years and in her last months especially, was the poet Mary Oliver. And she would read Mary Oliver poems to me when we would laugh and cry, and we would say, that's it, Mary caught this emotion or this thought so perfectly. And after my mother passed, and not long after my father also passed, I read one of Oliver's poems, and its last line, after watching both my parents die too early, caught my attention. Mary Oliver's poem, The Summer Day, ends with, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" I felt like it was my mother speaking to me, giving me the biggest lesson ever, challenging me to embrace life to its fullest. And I thought how much a parent loves a child, and wouldn't it be amazing if a parent could give a child this gift before it was too late, very early in the child's life. And this gave me an idea for a loving elder to pass wisdom on to a newly born child. I scribbled this idea down, and while it is not completely developed, and the sketches are literally this big, this is how I first do my books. This is an entire book right here. And in fact, all the books I do they're all this small to start, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Anyway, the one I'm going to show you now on this giant screen is really this small. And I think it just gives a nice idea of how thought can evolve into the beginnings of the story. And this is called Tell Me, Little Horse. Tell me, little horse, how will you spend these beautiful days? You can stretch your face into the warmth and love the morning light. You can feel the soft earth under your hooves and breathe in air so fresh. You can smell every blossom and not miss one. You can know you are perfect, just like that big sky. And if you walk too far and you are alone, tell me, little horse, what will you do? You can befriend a tree and listen to the wind whistle through, and let its leaves shelter you from the falling sky. You can laze under its branches when the sun grows just too big. Then run as fast as your will to nowhere and roll in the sweet hot grass. Let mischief in, little horse, for I will always love you no matter what you tell me. Watch the leaves spin around the fading sun. And when the light slips below the mountains, little horse, don't be afraid. Thank every star for bringing light to the darkness. And I will hold you and love you as you start to dream. And you can tell me, little horse, how will you spend these beautiful days? And I think one of the reasons that I write these first drawings so small is that I love detail, and if I do them too big, I get so caught up in the little minutia of like the horse's hoof or something, and it's really about the flow of the page and the page turns, so that's why I started with this small. Since I'd written Meet Me at the Moon for my mother, I wanted to create something for my father. The admiration I had for him and the respect for the full and creative life he lived was immense, and I wanted to capture that in a story. I thought of animals that were big and strong and wise like my father, and since I had just done an elephant story, I focused my attention on humpback whales, who are deeply connected to their young. And I came up with my latest story called Following Papa's Song. And this story is about a young whale who admires his wise father as they make their migration through the ocean. But being small and curious, the little whale wanders off to explore alone and gets lost. And he realizes that he still needs the guidance of his